What's up, everyone? It's Scotty with Money Investing. Welcome on board for another Market Open live stream here. So we did get a report from Hindenburg Research earlier shorting Square, or pretty much a short attack. It is recovering a little bit. I posted a video earlier, so make sure that you do go and check that out. SPY is up 60 basis points. We've got the QQQs up over 1%, so we're seeing a lot of consolidation pre-market with the Dow up a little bit over 27 basis points at the moment. So we're seeing a lot of consolidation intraday, but still a pretty significant gap up here happening for the markets. Tesla is up over 2%. We've got Google up over 1%, Apple's up over 1%, and Microsoft also up over 1.65%. So pretty much a strong gap up day here with QQQs kind of outperforming the S&P and the Dow. And we got the yields stabilizing a little bit, back up over 1%. Volatility is down 4.2%. And energy is also recovering a little bit, 64 basis points, or crude oil is back up to almost $71 a barrel, up over 1.4%. And Bitcoin and Ethereum consolidating sideways. So hope you are doing great. FinTech Dump, MP3 is saying Square back to $30. But yeah, definitely do check out the other video that I posted on that. It's again a fresh report released 30 minutes ago on Block. So definitely Block is struggling at the moment. And I wanted to see if PayPal kind of benefits from that, but it doesn't really. It's also down 1.4%. So we're not really seeing a lot of rotation out of Square over to PayPal. We're seeing pretty much both stocks here drop. SoFi, on the other hand, is up 1.6%. Upstart is also green, 1.2%, and Affirm is flat, not really moving much. So yeah, it was quite an interesting report. I mean, I only got to not even half, like 1/3 of it, because again, I was giving you guys my first take, my first reaction on it in that video, and then over the weekend, maybe I'll get the time to kind of read over it and see what they're actually talking about. So yes, we're gonna do a poll here very quickly. Markets today. Let's see, green, red, and flat, and we should be all set with that. And make sure that you do drop a like as well, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. So in terms of some upgrades and downgrades, first of all, let's just go over to jobless claims. They came in 191,000, which was the number for last week. Consensus was 195, and the prior number was 192. So just a drop of about 1,000 folks, and this continues to show the labor market's super tight. Tesla reiterated as overweight from Morgan Stanley. And then we've got, let's see, First Republic has been moved to an under review rating by Citi. Marathon to buy from neutral from Citi. AMC as a sell from Citi. Meta and Pinterest as top picks from Piper Sandler. We got Hershey's as buy from UBS. Coinbase gets a downgrade from Oppenheimer. Boeing has outperformed from Wolfe Research. Chewy downgraded to hold from Deutsche Bank. Workday has been upgraded to outperform. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot of upgrades or downgrades here. We also do have the Fed's balance sheet coming out at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, so right after the markets close. That is going to be very important because it's going to tell us whether the Fed's balance sheet expanded or contracted in the past week, considering all the banking crisis that's been going on. So that's going to be somewhat indicative of what the Federal Reserve is actually planning to do with respect to their balance sheet and liquidity in the economy. Are they still injecting money? Are they still lending people, or banks, I should say, with the funds that they need in exchange for collateral, and what's going on with the mortgage-backed securities and treasury securities that they are taking on their balance sheet as well. So 4:30 p.m. that's going to be announced. Let's see, so no poll. So we just started the poll here if you want to vote, and of course share what your expectations are. And take profit on NVIDIA and AMD, Chris is asking. So, I mean, with respect to both NVIDIA and AMD, they have just been rallying higher. NVIDIA is now another 2.5% green. It is trading as high as 271. So, I mean, I already have a target up to 292. I mean, with the sentiment, how strong it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets up to $292. This is going to be that resistance or that target to watch for NVIDIA. And year to date, this stock's up 78%. Please, thank you so much for that donation, and I'm happy to go over your stock, Alibaba. But yeah, NVIDIA here, 78% year to date, very strong move to the upside, and the next resistance really is going to be $292 for NVIDIA moving forward. And AMD here, also resistance is going to stay put at $103, $104. So this is going to be that level to watch. And 2.5% green right now, back over $100 year to date. AMD's also performed really well, up 47%. Now, talking about Alibaba, Alibaba is now starting to recover a little bit. So, we did have a trade idea on this. It wasn't perfect. And this was one of the only ones that was not perfect. I mean, for example, Vertex, continue to push up into our profit zone. We also had Eli Lilly continue to push higher into our profit zone here. And of course, we had FAS, TMF, a lot of the stocks that we've been trading doing really well. Alibaba was the only one that actually went down, sold off, and now it's starting to recover back higher. So, I mean, this week it's up 2.4%. Pre-market, it's up another 4.5%. So, Boba plays, I would look at a support at around $84, $85. I would actually look at the low for this week's candle, which is going to be $79.48 around here. I would watch that as a support, and I've got a target back up to almost $121. Now, that might be a little bit on the more optimistic side, but it is possible for us to rebound considering how oversold we really are, and we're starting to see the RSI recover back up, and you can see the MACD also starting to curl back up above its signal line. So those are very good reversal signals for Alibaba, and I do think there is potential for us to kind of reverse a little bit, and target's going to stay up closer to 120, 121. So that's going to be the quick analysis on Alibaba here. And yields at the moment still up 1%, 3.5% is where we're at, and TMF is slightly pulling back after having a very strong green day yesterday, up almost 4%. Right now it's down 2.4. TMF has been very much back and forth here. It's just been going sideways because the yields have been going sideways as well, and so is TLT, just moving sideways at the moment. XLF had a brutal day yesterday. It's up 0.5% right now, and FAS is up another 1.77%. Once again, after having a brutal day yesterday, down 7%. So yesterday markets really sold off quite a bit. So we got about 2 minutes here for the markets to open. We're going to switch over to the actual S&P and the NASDAQ, and we'll see what the markets have in store for us. Block piece, please. So yes, the Borshi, I've actually broken it down in a separate video, so I would encourage you to go check that one out if you want the entire analysis on why it's actually dropping. But Square, as I've already mentioned before, from a longer term perspective, from an investment perspective, it's not a profitable company to begin with, and the margins are quite mixed because it's got Bitcoin revenue, services revenue, subscription, hardware. There's a lot of product, a lot of revenue mix that the company really has, and because of Bitcoin, the margins have dropped, and profitability also suffers, and that's one of the reasons why I've not been like long-term bullish or like long-term invested in that company. But I have considered it from a trading perspective if it does drop down to like low 60s or below $60, and in just one day it pretty much dropped quite a bit, coming back down to those levels. It's again still down 17.5%, trading under $60. This is going to be that support at 59, all the way down to as low as $53 per share. But if you wanna know specific reasons as to why it's selling off, what were the main key points in that report? Again, I haven't broken it down entirely because these reports are super long, but I did post a video earlier today. Yeah, Kathy Wood did buy yesterday, I think, Square, and that definitely did not play out how she was expecting it to. Yeah, that's again, that's one of her top holdings, so it's quite crazy, right? How Hindenburg Research actually has the power to just release a report and the stock just plummets, right? Depending on the stock itself, it can go down anywhere from 10 to 40, 50% even. So it's just crazy. But it never works on the upside. I mean, it rarely works on the upside at this scale. I mean, if somebody releases a report suggesting the bull case or suggesting, why they're optimistic about a certain stock, it doesn't go up like 20, 30, 40%. It doesn't work the other way around, but it does work on the short side because there was a graph that I saw, on Twitter once, which was the pain of losing $100 is greater than the pleasure of making $100. And that was so true because as humans, we're a lot more active and alert to risk as opposed to we are for opportunities, right? So, I mean, we would go lengths in protecting ourselves from losing $100 as opposed to the pleasure that we get from making $100. And I think that's why the short reports from Hindenburg Research play a bigger role in market movement as opposed to an optimistic or a bullish report released by, another research firm on a certain stock. So, and so we've already seen, recently Adani Group, dropping over $100 billion, losing that market value. Now Square, it's open, now down over 18%, trading now a little bit under $60. So yeah, pretty brutal. But there's definitely a lot more research that needs to be done there. So Caddy Bloomberg is turning the topic of credit crunch. What are your thoughts on this and what does it actually mean? So again, this was also covered in my other video. So Vault Boy, if you want to go check that out, there's 2 videos that I've posted if anybody's interested. The first one is on the credit crunch, which Walt is talking about, and that's also because what Janet Yellen said. So this is the video that talks about it. So again, non-insured deposits are not going to be protected, is what Janet Yellen mentioned, and Bill Ackman pretty much suggested that there's going to be more deposit outflows, but it goes over into a lot more detail about other things that Senator John Kennedy said and asked about Janet Yellen with respect to taxes and deficits and debts. There's a lot of things included there. Of course, this is a short report if anybody's interested on Square as well. So go check those out if you want some detailed analysis on those. But credit crunch, really, it's all going to come down to if there are more bank runs or not. Janet Yellen's kind of backpedaling now with respect to what she's already talked about, and I think that's not gonna be good from a banking perspective, right? Community banks and smaller banks, medium-sized banks, the economy needs those, right? You're not getting the same level of attention, the services in a big bank like JP Morgan as you are with your community bank, which is local, and it's very, very important for agriculture, for a lot of industries in the Midwest, and especially where big banks are not present. So it is important. And if deposit outflows continue, that is going to lead to more bank runs, which is going to lead to more failures, which is going to lead to more contagion, which could lead to a potential credit crunch in the economy. So it's just a ripple effect of a lot of things. But again, we'll find out. As the day goes by, as the week goes by, we just constantly get more and more information. So what do you think about PayPal and Amazon? So I'm long on both. I like both companies. PayPal, we'll be watching the support at closer to, $70 is my fair value for PayPal. And I'm kind of surprised that PayPal is actually selling off on this Square news. I would have, imagined a little bit of rotation out of Square into PayPal, because that report does compare Venmo and PayPal's growth with respect to Square, and definitely does not necessarily puts PayPal in a better light, but just on a comparable basis, it seems to be a much better deal, so to speak. But Square here, absolute bloodbath, down over 20% now, trading now under $50, and a lot of volume coming in. And as more people become aware of what's actually going on with the report, and why it's driving lower, that the fear is gonna definitely not be very kind to the stock today. So 21% down, $57 at the moment. So anyway, market's still green. So Nasdaq's up 1.3%. We've got the S&P up 0.83%. The Dow still pushing higher. If you come over to the banks, they are doing well. So Western Alliance pushing higher. We have FAS pushing at 1%. Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, everything's just green at the moment, with the exception of Square, of course, which is down substantially. UBS and PayPal pulling back as well. And Credit Suisse is down about 1.2%. So Momo, what happened with Square? Go watch this video. This is literally, that, guys, the answer is right there. You can watch it in a lot more detail, but there was a short report on Square. TLT, let's see. So yields are pushing higher a little bit, right? So we are seeing the yields push at 1.3%. So TLT at the moment is down 1%. So again, that's the inverse correlation, right? And that's one of the main things about, prices and yields, is that they always move inversely to each other. Think of any dividend stock, right? Think of any dividend stock. And I can show you that with respect to a very, very good visual representation, and this is going to be a much easier way for you to remember. Think of any dividend paying stock. Tell me right now in the comments, any dividend paying stock. Let's see. I'm going to come over to here. So WBA, okay, so Walgreens, right? So Walgreens is a dividend paying stock. Right now, their dividend yield is 5.91%. So if you come over to their dividends, their actual payout is about $1.91. So we put that number in over here, right? $1.91, and their price, right now the price they're trading at is $32.47. So $32.47. So their dividend yield right now is about 5.88%, right? So 5.88%, just rounding out 5.9%. Now, if the price, right, drops by another 20%, right? Let's just say that it goes down 20%. It comes down to 25.98. Look what happens to the yield. It goes up, right? So as price comes down, the yield goes up, right? What if the price goes up by 20%? So let's just do 1.20. So from 32.47, it goes up to 38.96. Look what happens to the yield. It comes down, right? Same exact concept can be applied to bonds, right? Same exact thing. Bonds, prices go up when yields go down, and prices go down, yields go up. That's the inverse correlation. And with the 10-year yields, as you can see that when yields are higher, 1.3%, you're seeing TLT, which is a bond price ETF, longer duration, 20 plus years, it's down 1%. So that's the correlation there. Yeah, realty income, one of my favorite ones, definitely. That's going to be O. Yeah, so if yields continue to push higher, TLT is going to continue to come down, and I would be a lot more interested in, once again, adding a little bit. If it does get back up to 4%, if the yields do, I would be interested in kind of adding a little bit more there. Anyway, let's take a quick look at our poll. 57% expecting green today, 35% red, and only 8% expecting the markets to be flat. So there's definitely a lot of bullish bias here on the day. So again, we'll see what the markets have in store for us. So among fintech today, almost everything is green with the exception of Square and PayPal. Upstart's up 4.5%, Affirm's up 2%, SoFi, Ally, all of them pushing higher. With banks green, we talked about it. Energy, let's take a quick look. Also very green because oil prices are recovering very well, up 2%. Volatility is back down 6.7%. And again, yields are flat. Zim Integrated Shipping as a dividend stock. Yeah, I mean, not for too long, not for very long. I think there is going to be at some point, there's going to be dividend cuts from Zim Integrated Shipping. Maybe later this year, early next year, I think there's a possibility that they announce some dividend cuts. They've got a huge dividend payout coming up on April 4th. So be careful, right, around those dividend payouts and next dividend dates, April 4th, because stock drops quite a bit. And wouldn't be surprised if that after that dividend X date, we drop it. And you can see that, right? In the last dividend X date, stock dropped over 6%, and then it continued to sell off over 29, close to 30%. This time around on Friday, August 26th, you can see the stock was down a little bit over 5.65%. It continued to drop another 47%. So just be careful ahead of these X dividend dates. For Zim, it's going to be coming out on April 4th. Certainly don't want to be holding there at that point because there is going to be some downward pressure as people get rid of that stock. Yeah, Chinese stocks are pushing up today. That's definitely, NVIDIA's in a different orbit. Wow, 3%, 272. I think 292 is going to happen. I feel like, Kevin, I think that's the level that we're going to get up to. $292 is just... I feel like we're just kind of headed in that direction. And then eventually I think there's going to be, a time where NVIDIA is just going to really come back to reality here. Investors need to wake up. No, I mean, it's good. On the long side, it has definitely been a big performer. Year to date, it's up 75%. Since November, the best performing stock. Since October, it's pushed up over 158%, so more than doubled in price. But I think now, really it's about expectations, right? Luis, could you do a quick investor analysis on TGT? Yes, thank you so much for that donation. I really appreciate it. So, Target, a lot of consolidation for this stock. I do like this as a retailer. It's it's more of a value name, so to speak, because there's not a lot of growth involved. It's got a decent yield, 2.74%. So if you come over to the earnings expectations, they are expected to once again increase, accelerate from 856 all the way to 1241. In terms of, let's take a look at their balance sheet very quickly. So they do have $18.4 billion of debt, net debt. So they've got more debt than cash. That is a one potential yellow flag that we need to definitely be watching. It's not a big deal, but because their current ratio is 0.92. So, okay, they've got some liquidity problems. Quick ratio is 0.22. That's even worse. Quick ratio takes inventory out. So they were sitting on very little current assets with respect to their current liabilities. Debt is a little bit more than what they have on cash on hand and assets. And then their margins, 21% gross margins, net income margins 2.7%. So again, you don't expect a lot of margins from this company. And for a retailer at 27 times earnings, I personally do think it's a little bit on the higher end. And 18 times cash flow, definitely do think that that's a bit a stretch for Target. So I like it as a company, but in terms of valuation, the balance sheet, and margins, I do think that Target can be a better deal at lower prices. So I'll be watching this support at 139, 140, all the way down to as low as 125. And right now we've got a resistance at 179, $180. So pretty strong resistance, kind of like a triple top at those prices. Support level is going to stay at 125 to 138. Berg, would TTCF be an interesting buy soon? I don't know if that's a serious question or not, but no, I mean, the problem with Tattooed Chef is that the margins are really, really low. Like, how do you go from, I mean, their gross margins 1%, right? Less than 1%. So how do you go from like 1% gross margin? In fact, it was negative. The gross margin was negative 7.2%, right? Let's take a look at the quarter annual. Gross margin was negative 7.2%. I mean, last year it was a little bit over, 2021, it was a little bit over 8%. But, gross margins are low. And if you're starting off with really low gross margins, I don't see how you turn the corner towards profitability anytime soon. So that becomes a bit of a risk for Tattooed Chef. County's favorite stock. Yeah, margins are low when they're charged $5 for a 250 calorie meal. Food industry definitely has very extremely low margins, Danny says. That's very true. I would never invest in restaurants or anything related. And they are very, I mean, not Tattooed Chef, but other restaurants can be very cyclical in nature. I mean, it's, when the economy is growing, they're doing really well, but then we're going through the tough times, it's time to wrap up. So they can be very much dependent on how the economy is doing. So they're very boom and bust industries, so to speak. All right, let's follow up on Square here. Still down 19, almost 20%. This week it's down 21%. All of it because of course, this report. And on the month, it's down 24% so far. So Tesla up 3.5%. We've got Google up 1.7%. We've got Apple up 0.86%, and Microsoft pushing up 1.5%. So seeing a lot of momentum here for, of course, a lot of tech. Netflix, look at that. How come nobody's mentioned Netflix here? Look at that strong move. RSI MACD was a bit on the oversold side, so we're seeing a very strong move for this company today. Apple looking to spend $1 billion a year to release movies in theaters. So since debuting its Apple TV Plus streaming since 2019, Apple has focused its content investments on shows and movies made exclusively for Apple TV Plus. The strategy counters that of the likes of Netflix, Amazon, and Disney's, Hulu, which license content from other sources and studios in addition to producing shows and movies of their own. Yeah, but it's still a very strong move for Netflix here. 7% among big tech. Tesla here, Google, and then of course AMD and Nvidia on a whole other different planet right now. Oh, you mentioned Netflix 2 minutes ago. I missed it. Selling puts for Square? Not at the moment. I mean, I would only be selling puts for businesses that I do want to own, like for stocks that I actually want to own. But yeah, Square seems a bit more on the riskier side. But it is coming down to a pretty good support level of $51, $52, like here. I mean, we have taken a swing trade on Square before. Actually, a couple times we've taken swing trades on this falling wedge with a potential breakout. So this has been a part of our trade ideas in the past. This is definitely oversold, but I would wait for a couple more days for the selling pressure to exhaust itself, for it to stabilize a little bit before we can take a trade on this. Yes, everyone, make sure that you drop a like. I would really appreciate it. We can, I'm sure we can get this number up to at least 150, closer to 200. So drop the like button. I would really appreciate it. Take on Zeta, Z-E-T-A. So very much in an uptrend, $2 billion market cap. We've got not a lot of profits. In fact, nothing in terms of profitability for the company. So 55% margins, but everything else is negative. Price to sales 2.5, price to cash flow 18. So not super bad. Current ratio is good. Net debt is very small. And we got some decent growing free cash flows with share count that is also pretty flat. So, I mean, I would be interested in learning more about this company. Balance sheet looks okay. Not a lot of dilution. Decent valuation, but it's not profitable yet. So maybe we can do some analysis. Volumes a little bit on the low side. So, I mean, we can definitely put it on the list. Stocks to analyze in the future. So what does everybody think intraday in terms of price action? Are we going to see a sell-off like yesterday towards the end, or the markets are going to be able to hold up this rally and we're seeing more momentum to the upside? What does everyone think? I want to hear from everyone, all 350 people watching. Let me know in the live chat. What do you think about the intraday price action? Are we more of a gap fill on the downside, pullback like yesterday, or consolidate sideways and see a strong rally to the upside in the entire day? Because, you know, really that's what I mentioned in one of the videos and yesterday in the comments as well. I mean, futures and, you know, where we gap up or down is irrelevant. What really matters is where we close, right? How the markets trade intraday. That's what really matters. Whether futures are higher or lower, do we gap up or down? Very irrelevant, because oftentimes you'll find that we are, you know, having a very strong green day, pushing up and up until 3:30 p.m. In the last 30 minutes, a huge dump comes in. We just sell right back down. So it really, you know, is a question of where we close as opposed to not where we open. So Christian, yeah, I just saw your vid about Square. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We are seeing a bit of a short report on Square. Anyway, so I think sell-off, fade. We got rally from Nima. We got up from Mystery. We got chop. So Kevin's saying sideways. Srinivas sell-off. Sell-off, gap fill. Bullet heart and hope up. Consolidation up. Arif, no sell-off today as your friend is not making a speech. Who, Jerome Powell? Oh, man. I think he's a friend of everyone. Yesterday, he was cracking some jokes. Did anybody notice? He was trying to be funny a few times on that disinflation question. So I'm a big owner of Square, but I saw so much innovation during the pandemic. Many people loved that they could customize the debit cards, and I see a lot of business owners using the point of sale. Yeah, I mean, you know, from what I've read so far, I think the main, you know, concern was the valuation, but then there's also other things with respect to the number of users, targeted users, and then identities, and a lot of things that report, breaks down. So there's definitely a lot of research that needs to be done on what was discussed in that report for Square. Yeah. Anyways, so everyone, that's going to be it for today. I really appreciate you all joining in. We do have the markets pushing higher so far, with big tech absolutely crushing it. We've got leading the way Netflix, NVIDIA, AMD, of course. Then we got Tesla up 3%. So greenery everywhere except for the fintech corner of the market, and specifically the Square corner of the market, struggling at the moment. So again, thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. Make sure that you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're just joining us for the first time. And the link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. If you're interested in joining us, there is a 16% annual discount that's available till the end of this month. And I would love to have you on board. Happy investing. I will see you all in the next live stream.